24 leaders in Iowa have announced they're endorsing Senator Elizabeth Warren for president. The new support comes from current and former Iowa Democratic leaders as well as activists. And these endorsements put Warren ahead of New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, who previously had the most endorsements from current state legislators in Iowa. Let's bring in CBSN political reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns. Caitlin, always great to see you. What do these endorsements mean for Senator Elizabeth Warren?
Well, it's interesting because she hasn't gotten a lot of, big establishment congressional endorsements, but she's really racking them up at the local level. And that's really important in a state like Iowa where that retail politics, that ground game really matters. And her campaign, as we've talked about before, really invested early in Iowa, focused on organization really above all else. And we've seen that now reflected in her polling in the new CBS News Battleground Tracker poll. She and Biden are pretty much neck and neck in Iowa. And so these endorsements are certainly a boost for her campaign and a way for her to say that she's been kind of working the local level.
I want to ask you about Senator Amy Klobuchar. Last night, she tweeted that she raised over $1 million in the 24 hours since the debate. Did her performance at the debate actually help? And what could this mean for the future of her campaign?
Yeah, well, when you look at the speaking time that all of these candidates were given, you see Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden at the top, but Amy Klobuchar actually got the third most speaking minutes in that debate. So I think that shows that she really tried to assert herself in the last debate and asserting herself as kind of a force of moderation or practicality. She talked a lot about actually focusing her ire on Elizabeth Warren, her Senate colleague, talking about that plans might be nice, but let's look at what's actually practical. And that's something that she's been trying to push, especially in states like Iowa.
Right. She said at one point there's a difference between a plan and a pipe dream, right? One of the more biting comments of the night. So, Caitlin, I know you're actually going to be traveling with Senator Klobuchar in Iowa this weekend. What is it that she's looking for in that state?
Yeah, she's going on a big bus tour all throughout Iowa this weekend, so we'll be joining her for a little bit of that. And she's trying to pitch herself as someone who can win back the Midwest for Democrats. And this comes at a time that we haven't really seen her rise in the polls. She's pretty low down. Her fundraising is still, even though she raised $1 million, pretty low compared to all the other candidates. But what's really interesting in this race, you're starting to see some of these candidates see some weakening in Joe Biden. So trying to appeal to his supporters. And while he has been pretty durable, we've seen his support drop. And candidates like Amy Klobuchar are trying to message, especially in areas like the Midwest, especially to more moderate Democrats, or even those Republicans in suburbs who switched to Democrats last time or are thinking about it, really message to them. She thinks that she has a good pitch for that.
And what has Senator Klobuchar's support in Iowa looked like to this point?
Well, she has really focused on this state, and we haven't really seen her resonate that much in the polls, or at least not as high as a Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, or even a Joe Biden. So she still has a lot of work to do, but she comes from a neighboring state, talks about that a lot whenever she's campaigning in Iowa. And her focus really is on kind of this idea that she has been able to win in the Midwest. She talks a lot about Minnesota, a state that we know the president is eyeing and trying to win in the next election. She talks about ways in which she's won rural counties, she's won Republican counties, and she believes she has the message to do that. And again, it just comes at a time where you're seeing her and Pete Buttigieg sensing some weakness in Joe Biden, or at least opportunities to pick off some of his supporters.
Yeah, the two of them really seem to be almost simpatico in their attacks on Elizabeth Warren at certain points. Finally, Caitlin, many of the presidential candidates have been reacting to the passing of Elijah Cummings. How are they remembering him?
Right. We've seen most of the candidates weigh in, offering their condolences. And what's notable, too, is a lot of these 2020 candidates worked with Congressman Cummings in Congress. He has been known, as you were talking earlier in the previous segment, for having lots of bipartisan relationships and really addressing issues that are so critical to the Democratic Party right now, living in the inner city of Baltimore, making his home where his constituents were, where these problems or issues in his community were. And that's something that I think you will see a lot of Democrats talking about, going to the places that they need to be going to address the issues they're talking about.
All right, Caitlin Huey-Burns, off to Iowa for you. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Appreciate it.